We are back. It is show 3 of NSIC Weekly for the 2025 football season. I'm Tom Frederick. I'm the play-by-play voice of the University of Sioux Falls. That fella doing his best Don Kessinger impression is Matt Witwicky, the D2 football columnist for the Northern Sun Conference. Don Kessinger, you don't get that one.
Nope. You got the samurai going on the hair tonight?
Glenn Beckert. Nothing?
Those Glenn guys Hubbard, is that what you said? He just plays second base.
Yeah, they were.
Zimmer looks a lot like Glenn Hubbard, but that's another story.
Glenn Beckert was at second. Don Kessinger was at short. Ron Santo was at third for that.
Oh, you're talking about. Oh, I know, Alex. I'll take things that happened before I was born for 500.
Well, if you wouldn't wear that Cubs hat, I wouldn't have to make dated references.
You'll make dated references. Let's not kid ourselves.
You're right about that, my friend. That's what I'm known for. I'm proud of it. How you doing?
You know what? I've had an interesting day, as you know. I was without power for a while, which is always a comforting way to start a regular work day. But you know what? We somehow got everything taken care of, and we got everything ready for the show. We wouldn't miss all this for our fans. And don't forget, Tom, we're live. We're going to have comments, the whole deal. So every once in a while, we'll have people chiming on in, maybe buzzing our tower about some of our picks. Who knows?
This is the second show you've worn that cap, and this is the second show I've worn the hair up. For those people keeping score at home.
Yeah, I think the cap is thinning. Isn't that the case?
And the hair is thinning as well when you wear it up like this.
Well, buddy, let me ask you. You had a chance to go ahead and travel.
Yeah.
With the USF Cougars on out to the Black Hills in South Dakota, Rapid City area, and watch USF go ahead and take on Black Hills State. And we're going to go ahead and start off with some of the images captured on your trip. Go ahead and talk me through a little bit of this.
Those chairs right there in yellow, they're the only seats with backs on them in the entire stadium. They don't have a very big reserved seating area there at Lyle Hare Stadium on the campus of Black Hills State University in Spearfish, which is about an hour north of Rapid City. Tim Hyatt and I were in the press box, which is a little bit probably newer than that in Mankato, but not much. We were just to the right of Jackets up on the wall there. And you could see how big that booth is, our picture right there in the right corner. If I was any bigger or if Tim was any bigger, we would have been rubbing shoulders all night. As it was, you had to stand up and lean forward, stick your head out the window, look to the right to see the scoreboard. And for a guy who likes to give the time quite frequently, I was doing that a lot. So I got a crook in my neck, if you know what I mean.
So if your guy's sideline buddy had come with, he'd have to kind of grease up his hips a little bit to make room in there, huh?
You should have seen the post game. We had Garrett Hoffman. He had to make room for Cam Dean, who had to slide on out so Coach Glagowski could get in at the end of the night. Not a very big box, but we got the job done.
Now, as not quite as tight as up at UMD, but kind of a tight area for you. Is that about right?
I'd say that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, while you were there, you had a chance to take in a little bit of the area there. What did you guys have a chance to do while you were there on your visit?
Well, my wife drove out on Thursday, which alleviated me having to ride the bus home after the game Thursday night, which I was very thankful for. Tim Hyatt told me he walked into his house at 5:40 a.m. Friday.
Ooh.
I was still sawing logs in the hotel in Spearfish at that time. My wife Sharon and I toured the Rapid City area. This is Pactola Reservoir outside of Rapid City. Later on Friday, we drove down to the Custer area, took a look at Crazy Horse, had a nice meal in Custer, came back to Rapid, spent the night Friday night in the only Hotel Alex Johnson, which was featured prominently in what Alfred Hitchcock movie?
Once again, things from before I was born, but I'll let you show off here.
1959, North by Northwest, starring Cary Grant and Eva Marie Saint. Watch it sometime. I think you'd enjoy it.
Back in those days, did they also wear black socks with white shorts?
It was a color movie, Witt. It was
Oh,
color.
okay. I just me taking a little jab at the outfit there, but nothing that you wouldn't do, nothing you wouldn't do to me. So
Nice white T-shirt you got going there, buddy.
and speaking of outfits, here I am out in Mankato with my guy Spanky. No, with John Dykstra, my MIAA columnist. He and I were on our broadcast last night talking about stuff, and we had a chance, to go ahead and interview pregame Coach Hoffner and Coach McMiniman before the contest we were at there in Mankato. Boy, take a look at the grass. You're always a reminder of how well they upkeep pretty much everything there. And we had a chance to take in a game that looked like it was going to be a really nice day, as you can see right there. And by the time we got into the first quarter, everyone was soaked and the sun was still out. It had been raining hard. And you can see, by the way, rainbow there or two. And, kind of one of those situations, Tom, where by the time I got home 3 hours afterwards, I was still absolutely soaked after a 3-hour drive.
Did you stick it out to the bitter end?
Heck no. You know what I did? I called a great audible, and I decided, once it was still raining, right when we got in the half, and I tried to make my way out of the grass stadium that had become pretty muddy, I got in my vehicle, which was actually close by, good parking by this guy, called Jake's Pizza, Stadium Pizza, which was nearby, put in an order quick, zipped on over there, grabbed a pizza, headed on out because the game was 21-0 going on what felt like 40-0. And on my way home, I had a chance to listen to you and your partner the entire way home, almost listening to you guys call the Black Hills game on the radio.
Did you finish the pizza by the time you got home?
I finished the pizza before I got to the Albert Lee area. Or not Albert Lee, Blue Earth. Not little people know I'm all about the geography, so you understand where Blue Earth is on that trip.
So you had a Kojak parking spot, you're telling me.
It was close as well, but
yeah.
We'll get on to discussing those games in greater detail, but we always like to kind of detail our boots on the ground findings wherever we end up traveling. And that leads us into, you've got another dated reference? I'm sorry.
I want to explain what a Kojak parking spot is.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
You remember the old TV show Kojak with Telly Savalas?
Yes, he bald-headed guy with the toothpick. Yes.
No, it was a sucker.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that was UL Washington. I'm sorry.
With the toothpick. Yeah.
Yes.
He would always show up at a crime scene, and invariably there would be a parking spot right outside the front door for him. So you had a Kojak parking spot right there at Mankato because you said you were right nearby. You just walked off the field, got in your car, went and got your pizza.
For those keeping track at home, that's his third dated reference, and we're not even 10 minutes in. Moving right along. Here we go for the players of the week, Tom.
From beautiful downtown Burnsville, the home office of the Northern Sun Intercollegiate Conference, hot off the press from Nick Cornder, Augustana quarterback Gunnar Hensley, a junior from Carlsbad, California. He led the Vikings to a 30-26 come-from-behind win at home over MoWest, as they're being called these days. Hensley was 31 of 51 for a career-best 430 yards and 3 touchdowns. Man in the middle there, Mitchell Jezierski out of MSU Moorhead. He's the defensive honoree, a senior linebacker from Rogers, Minnesota. He had a day. in the Dragons' 44-37 victory on the road at Northern Michigan. 18 tackles, 12 of them were solos. He had 2 TFLs, a sack, and he forced 2 fumbles, both of which were recovered by his team. I believe he also drove one of the buses home.
Yeah, I guess.
And representing special teams is Minnesota State Mankato kicker Connor Fournier. He's a sophomore out of Maple Grove in the Twin Cities. Fournier was perfect from placement, 5 for 5 on PATs, as well as a 24-yard chip shot field goal as the Mavericks routed Northwest Missouri 38-14, the game that Witt bailed on at halftime.
You know what? I would have bet money that Jack Strand was going to be Player of the Week. He was National Player of the Week by a few publications. So kind of good to see. You know what? Sometimes it's neat to see a few different guys recognized, because certainly Gunner had a big week also. No doubt about it. So
we'll see some film or video, as it is in today's parlance, a little bit later on in the show.
You bet.
Should we begin our recaps?
Sounds good.
The Minnesota State Northwest Missouri game starts us off. Doesn't look, to me, that the Maverick offense missed any beats with new quarterback Mitchell Thompson as the trigger man.
Yeah, in watching him, he was, they had kind of the 1A and 1B coming on in, and the thought was that he was going to be more of the runner of the two, was kind of the thought that was being shared out there. And watching him, the way Eckern ran last year when they wanted to kind of do the power game, Mitch is able to do that. And he also has a little bit of a little jump step that he can do and get extra yards and get loose. He's a pretty good athlete and not a small player either. So watching him, and we're going to go ahead and throw on some of the video here momentarily. Now, before we do, I do want to mention that in some of the video here, for whatever reason, Mankato has kind of decided that they want to go a little bit with this look where we have the announcers in the bottom left of the shot. They did it intermittently on the broadcast. I'm just going to simply say, let's not feel like we need to do that going forward. I hope that different, ones that I see in the Northern Sun don't kind of adopt that, because I'm just fine seeing the play itself and not having some of that screen with that on it. I'll put it that way.
Get off Witt's lawn. Come on. Get off
my lawn. And I would rather us focus on things like getting the shot and not missing long passes and other things of that sort. Not that I'm foreshadowing at all.
Oh, but, right. Okay. You're a soothsayer.
But in any event, let's go ahead and look at some of the video from the contest. We've got right away, they were kind of going the combo of Backer and Thompson running the ball kind of intermittently. Here's Thompson right here, and you get a chance to see he runs pretty well. And the offensive line of the Mavs was doing their thing like they do. Here's where we're missing a shot on a deep pass to Trayshawn Watson. He had a monster game. He could have been a guy that could have been Player of the Week. He was making huge catches throughout the first half and helped them really separate 21-0 at halftime. As at this point, Northwest was having to kind of try and make a few plays, and they take a shot downfield, they get an interception. You go ahead and you see Backer running here, does a nice job of kind of doing a little bit of a counter and coming back the other way with it. And, they're rolling on out for the touchdown and the tight end. They're doing a little bit of everything they want. 35-0 in this one, Tom, in the third quarter. And the Mavs look like they have not missed a beat since the playoff run that they were on. Now, here we've got Zachariah Owens, who is kind of the 1B quarterback for Northwest. He came in, made a few plays, looked pretty athletic doing so. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets a little more time for them. But you can see the way the quarterback +1 run game for the Mavs is alive and well again this year. And you combine that with Sam Backer, who's a year older, more physically mature, and Trayshawn Watson, who I thought was really ready to grab the spotlight. You put all those things together and you have the Mavs kind of rolling against what I'm going to say is a very well-respected brand. I don't know how good the football team is going to be this year. I think that they're going to be over 500, but boy, I tell you, it was a real tough first matchup for Coach Mack and their squad, having to face a Maverick team that did not look like they were playing their first game of the year.
You alluded to Mankato having a 1A and 1B at quarterback in the preseason. Thompson's the 1A. Did we ever see a 1B?
Yeah, you know what? As the game kind of continued on, you got Max Sims who came in the second half. Now, word was that something happened. He didn't play the first half at all. Played the second half. He was supposed to be kind of the 1A, but he came on in, and by the time he came in, he showed some production, but it was just a different time in the game. They're already up 21-0 and everything else. I really feel with what they like to do, I'll be surprised if Mitch Thompson doesn't kind of forge ahead a little bit in that race. But Tom, you can recall Todd Hoffner is by no means afraid of doing 1A and 1B at quarterback, probably more than any other head coach in Division II. I mean, you can remember back how many different times did they have a 1A and 1B in the last 15 years.
Couple, three for sure.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along. Moorhead got a win to open the season, and the highly lauded Jack Strand, Witt alluded to him a little bit ago, he definitely lived up to his billing. I see he still has he's got a safety blanket at wide receiver still, Witt, in Gage Florence too.
Yeah, and you know, our Brady Perriman, who we had on our preseason All-American team, he only caught 2 balls in this game. So it just shows the way that they've got so many weapons in the pass game. Now, they ran the ball 14 times for 18 yards, which speaks to, you know, why they still need to do the things that they do in the pass game. But Tom, I'm over at Mankato, and first quarter, I get a message that says 21-0 Northern Michigan. And I said, whoa, wait a second. So Northern Michigan is out to a big lead early in this game in the first quarter, running the veer. And let's be frank, Minnesota State Moorhead has never been, they're more of a team who would rather the game be more 7-on-7 than let's go ahead and have a fight in the phone booth all the time. And that's a tough matchup for them in that moment where the other team is just trying to pound the rock and play the game in the phone booth. And they were able to run the ball. Northern Michigan was for 290 yards, 3 scores, and they were up 2 touchdowns at halftime. Northern Michigan was, but to the credit of the Dragons, they fought back and were not going to let this game be a scar on their record here. I mean, they're playing a Northern Michigan team who hadn't won a football game in either of the last 2 seasons. Now, does this mean that all of a sudden Moorhead is not a very good team? No, I don't view that at all. I think that this was stylistically a very tough matchup for them. And I think the fact that they finished the back half of the game they did, they had a moment where there was a time where they scored 3 straight times, got themselves up 10 points in this game, and then ended up closing it out. I think the back half is going to be a little more indicative of who they were versus the poor start they had in this contest.
Gotcha. Good recap there. We had an in-state rivalry game down at Wayne America last Thursday. Kearney got the best of Wayne State College. Wildcats surprisingly were led defensively by someone not named Kowalczyk or Sitzman here, I see.
Yeah, and you know what, there's a whole lot of new names, let's just say right now, Tom, which, you know, we in our preview, I kind of alluded to the fact that I thought Wayne State was going to have a hard time just going how they have been with a lot of names and bodies that we're accustomed to. And, you know, When we take a look at whether it's Dannenbrink at quarterback and going ahead and look at the running game with Dustin Foggy and them having struggles running the football, they were only able to come up with less, 281 yards of total offense. And I thought this Nebraska Kearney team, after seeing them in the spring, Tom, you and I both did, you notice Isaiah Harris over there on the left side of our page. He went for 165 and had two big runs that really broke Wayne State's back. And I kind of figured that with as physical as Kearney can be, they kind of set the tone early getting after Dannenbrink. And it was just one of those games where it was every time Kearney would score, Wayne State would then match them. And it was back and forth like that until the end when Harris kind of finally separated them late in the contest. This is a great game, in-state rival game. It's good for both teams. I know Wayne State came out on the wrong end of this, but you know what? This is a good game for both teams to have on the schedule.
The MIAA against the NSIC. What is it on the scoreboard now? One apiece. Mankato beating Northwest. Kearney beating Wayne State.
Well, and Emporia beats Minot.
We didn't. I said still to come.
Well, you're the one who put it out there. But anyway, so carry on.
In this one, Bemidji traveled to the UP, got thumped by a squad traditionally better known for its hockey program than its football squad. What happened to the Beavers in this one, Witt? I'm shocked. I picked Bemidji to win here.
Bemidji was actually up 17-16 at half. And Connor Carver, who is a very athletic, bigger quarterback that came on late in the year for them in the playoffs last season, he had two nice touchdown runs and, frankly, was a whole lot of their offense, if I'm going to be honest. 258 yards total for the Beavers. They struggled in the second half, got shut out in that second half, 21-0. And at the same time, Alex Bueno for Michigan Tech kind of got things cooking a little bit as a dual threat. Bemidji, Tom, we talked about it in our preview. They lost 9 starters defensively and a huge portion of their production. And Tom, I felt last year that their defense was kind of their signature. I really did. I thought that was kind of what drove their success. And this may be an indication that this is a new year and some retooling that they're having to do. You can't just turn around to after 9 starters leave and just say next man up and not expect things to change at all.
Michigan Tech will play South Dakota Mines this weekend. I wonder if Alex Bueno will be muy bueno for a second consecutive weekend. All righty. Concordia went on the road, got spanked by Quincy of the GLVC, getting outgained nearly 2-1 in the process. GLVC, another conference that the NSIC is lumped in with in Super Region 3. I didn't see a thumping like this coming, Witt, truth be told.
Yeah, and it's not great for conference strength in the region when a game like this happens in the way it did, but here we are. I picked Concordia to get out of the gate and go here. 177 yards of total offense, 10 first downs. Woof. And this Quincy team was not exactly known as the 46, defense of the Bears either. So Concordia's got some work to do.
Dated reference.
Yeah. Good reference. But there isn't a whole lot more to say here other than Concordia is going to have to just flush this one and be ready to go this coming week.
All right, I'm going to pull something from your vocabulary here as we move on to the next game. Woof. Minot State traveled nearly 900 miles and let Witt down. Passing game non-existent. Emporia didn't let the Beavers run them to death either.
Yeah. Minot, I'm calling you out right now. I went on my MIAA show, went on this show, and I was pounding the drum for you guys the whole deal. And I got another text message. First half at Mankato, I get a message says Emporia's up 20-0 or whatever it was. And I just went, you got to be kidding me. Because I know Minot at that point's in a bad spot with how they're going to run the offense. They're not going to strike quickly at that point.
That's not a comeback offense. No way.
I kind of mentioned this in our preview time. I thought Minot's, for a team that runs the offense that they do, we got to be averaging more than 4 point something a carry. And, if you're going to go ahead and live that way, unless you play lights out defense, and, they were getting beaten in the passing game by Emporia, and Emporia is good at that. I just really kind of thought that the Beavers would be able to assert themselves a little more offensively, and a lot of that ends up coming late. They had, I think, 80 yards or something like that in the first half. And Minot is definitely going to need to show better than that. I thought coming into this year, I thought they had the needle was pointed up on them, and now they're gonna have to rebound here in this first month to make sure that this season doesn't all of a sudden get lost quickly.
They've been hot and heavy in the comments section of our show for the first couple of weeks. How we doing tonight from up north?
That would be a no show.
Okay.
So there you have it.
All right. In my contest, Witt, University of Sioux Falls jumped off to a 13-0 lead, was never headed in this ball game. Dual threat quarterback Dean had his 6th 100-yard rushing game as a Cougar. He threw for nearly 250 on the night as well. Could have been more. He missed a couple of open receivers in or near the end zone. Black Hills had some air success. The Jackets got rid of the ball quickly, and this combo of Doobie and Chikura, man, it was deadly last Thursday. Combined for 3 scores.
Yeah, we got a little bit of video of this one, and for those who are thinking, okay, are you going to have video for my game in the future? We're going to make an effort to kind of mix up what games we get video from. Frankly, right off the bat, we were getting them from the ones that we thought would probably be the most competitive. But don't worry if you're looking for your team to be featured video-wise on the show. This isn't going to be a case where we get video from every game. I'll be honest, we just don't have the time or production hours to do that. But here we go. Let's see a little bit of the coup. Cam Dean, you get a chance to see the athlete that he is right here as he kind of just runs past, the Jackets. He was, I thought, the difference in this football game. He closed the game out late, being able to have some nice runs along with the offensive line helping. Big hit here, but Mr. Tan gets on in for the score. You mentioned a moment ago for Black Hills at wide receiver. What's his name again, Tom?
T.J. Chikura, number 8, lower left-hand corner of your screen.
Yeah, he runs a little hitch and go type thing here, and let's say he was open, and he had himself a pretty good game. A guy that my guys on the RMAC show will be talking about. I guarantee it. Sat out, or he was injured almost all last year, and the year before he was pretty productive. The Cougar, I thought that was the biggest challenge the Cougars had was he kept making plays. Otherwise, I thought the USF did a decent job stopping the run, kind of forcing Black Hill State to the pass. And I always felt like the Cougars were in a spot, Tom, where they were getting ready to go up by 2 scores, and then all of a sudden, quickly Black Hill State would get within striking distance, and the Cougars had a fair amount of penalties in this one, especially early, because the yardage itself, and by the way, we've kind of got that on our graphics now in the very middle of the page. So for anyone tuning in, we're always going to kind of list that going forward. We think that that's something that people would have interest in. The Cougars yardage-wise, if they didn't have those many self-inflicted wounds, they probably are able to go ahead and win this a little more comfortably. But with 5 minutes left, Tom, they had to go ahead to have a goal line stand and then run the ball out, which they were able to do with Cam Dean. And I think there's times where some of the teams that you didn't think were going to have a game that was going to be as much of a struggle as it was, I think there's times where it's actually very beneficial to you versus having a blowout because you find out more about your football team. You have some guys who you get tested and you have to get through something. So I think this is actually beneficial for USF. At the same time, I think it was a good game for Black Hills State, and they know that they can compete with squads like this, which should serve them well during their RMAC slate.
Well, they have another non-conference game this weekend. Whit, I'm really anxious to see how they fare in Allendale, Michigan, against Grand Valley State of the GLIAC. So the Cougars can do a little. I know nobody likes to do the comparative score thing, but in the back of my mind, I'll be doing that. Sioux Falls beats Black Hills by 1. Let's say Grand Valley beats Black Hills 30-0. What's that tell you?
Well, I don't think it's apples to apples because you're playing at Black Hills and then you're making a super long road trip and playing at Grand Valley, which is tougher than any place in the Northern Sun to play. So I'm not going to say that's really apples to apples comparison for Black Hills and the matchups they had. It'd be different if Black Hills played both teams at home or something like that.
We always thought too that they were going to take a bus to Michigan. We talked with Coach Bresky after the game Thursday. He came over to the booth. He used to be on staff at USF 10 years ago. He says they're flying out on Friday. He was a little apprehensive about taking a 60-member squad on an airplane, but it is what it is. It's like 900 miles out there. So,
well, he knows somebody who's got a little bit of money, so they might be okay.
True dat. All right, moving on. The Marauders beat a pretty good Midland squad from the NAIA, throwing for more than 300 yards, believe it or not. Are we sure Craig Bagnell or Logan Nelson wasn't under center last Thursday?
Well, you know what? This is a little bit misleading. Midland makes a late run to make the game look close. 14-0 at half, 21-3 at one point. Now I'm describing a little bit of a different football game than the score here would indicate. Now, they were able to go ahead and, put some things together late in the contest. Midland was. With 5-6 minutes left, this was the score. So all of a sudden, if you're Mary, you went from feeling really good about things to kind of hoping that you don't blow it at the end. But Mary with over 400 yards of offense, you got here a new offensive coordinator and some new stuff over 300 yards passing. So despite the fact that they were leaking oil at the end of the game, I think if you're Mary, I think that you feel like this is a good start to your season, not to mention, notching one in the W column.
You betcha. All right. That's my northern Minnesota. You betcha.
I caught that.
Between Kyle Walljasper and the defense, the Bulldogs on a neutral field, Minnesota Vikings facility in Eagan, they rolled Winona State handily.
Yeah, it's funny. Duluth, I turned on some of this game Friday. First play of the game, Tom, they hiked the ball to Walljasper. He fakes a run, he fakes a handoff, and he goes running off right tackle. It's kind of as if to say, you know what, you can prepare for all these other things, but we're going to go with this right here and now, which is when you think of them, that's what you think of right now in this version of them. And, Walljasper, he had one nice run right away. And then Winona was able to kind of keep some of that at bay. He had 13 carries, 13 yards. Now, he did throw some shots over the top. I mean, he completes 15 passes for almost 260 yards. And they've got some new weapons at receiver that made some plays. But what it really came down to, in my opinion, was Duluth's ability to really disrupt things in Winona's backfield. 8 tackles for loss, 4 of them were sacks. Jackson Flopmeyer, who we like a lot as a quarterback for Winona, not terribly successful either running or passing. And Winona punts the ball 9 times. If you tell me its squad has punted the ball 9 times, I think I got a pretty good idea of the outcome. So at this point, Duluth is who we thought they were. I was kind of hoping to see more out of Winona in that game.
Pulling your Danny Green reference out of your hat there. You said the word hiked. I don't think I've used the word hiked since the 80s. It's snapped, but that's
Okay.
That's your dated reference.
Okay, fair enough.
Lastly, Gunnar Hensley willed Augustana to victory in this one. I drove back from Rapid City, mowed the lawn, flipped the game on the stream just for the final minute. I caught the final minute of the game. He's at his own 36, 30 seconds to go. He took a massive hit as he let fly with the ball. He connected with Isaiah Huber for 54 yards, set up the game-winning score 3 plays later. Unbelievable come-from-behind win for the Vikings.
They pulled one out of the fire here. Now, I realize, people are going to look at this and say, okay, well, they had almost 500 yards offense. Being at the game, it kind of didn't feel like it. It was weird. Augustana came on out, and they were throwing the ball quite a bit. And it just didn't feel identity-wise like the Augustana that I recall. But let's be honest, they didn't have some guy named Epperson in the backfield to have as their home run hitter to give to every once in a while. And ironically, he was there in attendance in the stands. And you know what? Speaking of the Witt references, we were in, I want to say late in the first half, and it was MoWest 16-9 right before halftime. And I said to him, this is a schmaz. And he has no idea what schmaz is, but that's one of my references for an ugly football game, because it was not a modern art masterpiece. It was more like an Earl Scheib paint job at that point. And you like that reference? But anyway,
that's dated too.
But in the second half, Augustana rose up, and I tell you who really did was Isaiah Huber. He really, it felt to me, he's been a guy who's been a weapon for them, Tom, and a guy who can be counted on in special teams, especially as a returner. And he's always kind of a guy that you can count on for a clutch, third down catch. This is the kind of thing where he took over for them and really had a big second half. And we're going to go ahead and see a little bit of Witt video here from me at the game. And MoWest gets off to an early start, hits a deep shot early, and it was kind of okay. MoWest showing right away. Here's Mr. Huber that we were talking about. Runs a great corner route, and Hensley hits him. Hensley, great passer, by the way. Well, MoWest wasn't going to go away. All of a sudden, we were able to hit, the tight end here in the corner. Then fourth down, trying to goal line stand by MoWest, and they're able to get the stop here. And all of a sudden, they look like they're going to win the football game. Where's that play you were talking about? And Huber comes back for the ball, just pulls this out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden, we get to the point where we got 10 seconds left in this contest. And we go Hensley to Oswald for the score. And the Vikings, they looked like a younger, inexperienced team playing their first contest. And for them to pull this out of the fire like they did, thought that meant a lot, and that was kind of a big deal for them. Now, they did have Braylon Blunt, who is a running back they have, 5'6", kind of has a little bit of that Paul Preston, kind of smaller running back who's really, really difficult to deal with because he can really move. He left the game injured, and I don't think he returned in the third quarter, I want to say it was. So that's kind of something to look out for if you're a Vikings fan. But them pulling it on out the way they did, MoWest was very game. There was plenty of time. I mean, MoWest was the better team for a good portion of this game, but the Vikings went ahead and got the win.
All right, that concludes our recaps. And Bosses, Pizza and Chicken makes our little podcast possible each week, and we couldn't be more thankful. Right, partner?
Absolutely. And since we last spoke, I have had Bosses, and probably spurred on by the Italian sausage pizza that you see in the image there. Now, I did not get the beer from them, but I might have had a beer with it. It kind of goes well together at times. We will start featuring other dining options from Bosses in our graphics just to really get you guys, hungry. But we always want to make certain that people realize if you're looking to open up your own Bosses Pizza and Chicken, we would get a little bit of a kickback in that scenario. And well, we're all about that. So in case you're wondering, on their website, if you're looking for a franchising opportunity, got about 10 locations in the upper Midwest, but they're ready to open up anywhere. Go to their website. Make sure also in the questions or comments area, you give your candid thoughts about what a great show this is. Oh, wait, I got a little off track there. Never mind. That you found out from NSIC Weekly.
I don't like the word kickback, Witt. It reminds me of the payola scandals of the early rock and roll era. So just say we get a rebate.
I'd be good with a kickback, actually.
Lots of movement in the D2Football.com top 25. Half a dozen schools in the preseason poll fell. How could you guys get things so wrong?
Well, I don't know if we got things all that wrong, to be honest. But ironically, we came out with our new poll yesterday morning. And the AFCA, the coaches poll, came out right around noon today, and they have the same 25 teams we do. That's interesting.
Now,
but as we take a look here, though, there was some teams that clearly were not real good. Central Oklahoma got beat by 20 by Permian Basin, and so Permian Basin is ahead of them in our poll. The coaches oddly have Central Oklahoma ahead of Permian Basin, despite the fact that they lost by 20, but I'll let them explain that. Overall, Tom, I think our poll is pretty good right now. When you have a preseason poll, you're always going to have plenty of movement in that first week because you don't know exactly how good these teams are.
Well, the Northern Sun is down to 2 teams in the top 25. That's Minnesota State Mankato at 3 and Augustana at 15.
Yes.
Speaking of getting things wrong, we each went 7-3 last week. I consider that good for me. You're probably ashamed to show your face.
Well, and that's where we come back to Minot again. But yes, I was hoping to be a little bit better than 7-3. My percentage last year, I think, was a little bit higher. But you know what? This brings a lot of intrigue. All of our fans will be watching each week to see if you can somehow keep up with me.
All right, let's move on to our week 1 prognostications. This one is the first ever NSIC regular season game for the University of Jamestown Jimmies. They were idle last week. They come to Sioux Falls. I don't expect it's going to end well for them at Kirkaby Over Stadium. Augustana moves easily to 2-0, in my opinion.
Yeah, this feels like the kind of game where Augustana is going to get a chance to figure out how they may want to do things offensively in a little more optimum fashion than throwing the ball 50 times per game, which I don't really think is what Coach OJ would be searching for throughout the season. But I am very interested to see what the Jimmies have to offer. But let's be real frank, playing the 2-time conference champs on their own field when they've already played a game and you haven't, not the easiest thing in the world for Jamestown.
We're in agreement on game 1. 0-1 Bemidji visits 0-1 Winona State because I think the South is the stronger division, and because Winona is at home. Witt, I'm going with the Warriors.
I didn't see that one coming. I have got Coach Bolte. I can imagine some of the conversations on the ride home were not congratulating his group on a job well done. So I have a feeling that Bemidji gets back on track here. I don't know exactly what it looks like just yet because I have a concern a little bit about their defense. And offensively, they couldn't throw for 100 yards passing last week. So I think this game is not going to be real pretty, but I have Bemidji winning it.
We differ. Okay, next up. I wonder if Minot went straight to Mankato from Emporia. That's a joke because we're talking student athletes here. But you know how much buses, food, and lodging for 90 people over a week would cost anyway? It'd be cost prohibitive. They had to go back to Minot and then turn around and head over to Mankato. All I'm going to say is here, Minot drops to 0-2. Mankato improves to 2-0.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more from Minot a week ago heading into this one to feel good about any thoughts of an upset pick here. Mankato last year was just too good and physical up front, and Minot was not able to get anything going. After having started the season, what was it, 4-0 last year?
Yep.
Something like that?
Mm-hmm.
But then they had this same task of heading on in here. I'm sure Coach Shields is wondering exactly how they ended up drawing Mankato on the road 2 straight years, but here we are. I don't think there's any letdown with the Mavs. So, I would have to take them as well. And while we're on this game, I just thought I'd mention, I ran into Dan Brookins, who does local radio there in the area now. He is a graduate of Black Hills State, and I was chatting with him on the sideline at the Blake, and he figured that he would just chime in here. Dan, I thank you much for joining our program, and Dan, next time I am out there, I will catch you on radio, and I promise I won't go ahead and have a plan B, which involves me leaving with pizza.
You're saying Coach Shields is wondering how the luck of the draw came up that he's got to go to Mankato twice in a row?
I am saying that, yes.
And I'm wondering, what's the luck of the draw that Sioux Falls has to go to Minot 2 years in a row?
Well, here's the difference is I don't see everything through the Sioux Falls lens. I realize that you do, but I got a hard time. Who was it at Mankato gave me a hard time? They said, no, it was at Augustana. They said, when Tom picked USF to win the league, we knew what team he announced for. And I said, oh, wait, hold on. I'm going to tell that to my guy. So I just want to put a little chip on your shoulder. That was all.
All right, moving on. Moorhead with a win under its belt. SMSU, the Ponies, the Mustangs there. Man, that's a logo. That's fierce looking horse. They haven't played yet. I fully expect Jack Strand and company to just blow the doors off the Mustangs here.
As the great Lee Corso would say, not so fast.
So fast, my friend.
Okay, so what style of offense just gave Moorhead problems? A run-heavy team.
Yeah, well, they didn't have any offense last year, Witt.
Okay.
They went 0-11.
You know what, Mustang fans? I got you. Don't worry about the other voice in the room right now. I'm going to go ahead and say that the Mustangs may even be up at halftime in this game. I think they're going to be able to establish the run. I think they are going to give the Dragons problems for the first half. And I think Strand and company, once again, are going to come through in the second half. And I think they end up winning by a few scores. But look for SMSU to give Moorhead some problems and for this game to be tighter, at least early, first half. I don't have the Mustangs winning, but I think the Mustangs make a step forward this year, win some ball games, and compete in a game like this.
All right. They're hoping that Witt knows what he's talking about in Marshall.
That's dangerous.
The Wolves here, Northern State, have not played yet. University of Sioux Falls, as you alluded to, should have won more comfortably last week than they did. I fully believe that the Cougars, though, take the reins and win on Saturday night, Military Appreciation Night at Bob Young Field. And in the process, they will get Jim Glagowski his 50th career victory.
Do you have a concern at all, Tom, that the Cougars are going to come into this thinking that they're playing the last year's early season Wolves, who were a different animal than what we saw in the back half of the season?
I don't think so. All you have to do is take a look at the box score from last year's game. Witt Northern outgained Sioux Falls despite losing 34-10. They shot themselves in the foot. And I think the Cougars are fully aware that Northern State is going to be an improved team, and they're going to be prepared for them.
I don't know if Northern can do some of the things that Black Hills did in the passing game to hurt the Cougars like we saw a week ago. I think USF is good enough against the run, which is a little bit more of what I think Northern wants to have as some of their identity. I am curious to see if USF can keep some of the +1 quarterback runs to a minimum. We'll have to see. I think Northern, though, defensively is going to give USF some problems. I think USF escapes what could be viewed as kind of an ugly game. I don't think it's going to be very high scoring. I think Sioux Falls, though, and I think the biggest difference maker once again is quarterback Cam Dean. So I have Sioux Falls winning, but I think it's going to be a 20-14 kind of contest, something like that. I think it's going to be a close game.
We've still only differed once, my friend. 1-0 UMary at 0-1 Wayne State. I repeat my comments from earlier. I think the South is the stronger of the two divisions, and with Wayne State playing at home, Wildcats, my friend.
Yeah, this, as much as I'd like to say that Mary can kind of ride that wave after winning, let's be honest, they did it against Midland, who's middle of the pack, G-Pack. I have a hard time feeling like that's going to be quite the same quest here. I think Wayne has got a better defense than people might realize, and I like them here to go ahead and be able to get back on the winning track. Maybe even what becomes a one-sided contest.
Our 7th and final game of week 1. 0-1, Concordia St. Paul leaves the Twin Cities, heads to the twin ports of Duluth and Superior. And the Bears are not going to be treated kindly in my old hometown. Minnesota Duluth improves to 2-0.
Yeah, boy, it's just after we don't want to have overreactions to the first, contest that we see, right, Tom? But at the same time, it's all we have to go by right now when you combine that with how did these teams do a year ago. How does Duluth typically do against teams they are flat out supposed to beat? They just hammer them. And it's hard for me to move away from that given Concordia's trip down to Quincy. So I'm also looking for Duluth to kind of pull away in this one. And I think Concordia is going to have to regroup. I just don't know if it happens this week.
All right, that's our matchups for week 1. No coach on board for this week. So we got any time fillers such as NSIC Jeopardy or anything like that? Or we're just going to go over the comments?
No, I'm taking a quick look in the comments. We did have our guy Tukes in the comments. Speaking of Concordia, like we did a moment ago, he brings up the fact that Jalen Richardson no longer there, and I think that we thought that Jalen Richardson last year was probably one of the best players in the conference, and he was a lot of their offensive identity. So I think that he's got a very fair point there. We also have, let's see, James W. commented here at the beginning of the show. Mankato, Augustana, and Duluth have cakewalks this week. Bemidji, Sioux Falls, and Wayne State all hold serves. So some people just kind of offering some opinions as to which way things go, this week. And then I've as I take a look, we don't really have a whole lot else that are things that we're going to share here. So, buddy, we're now 3 shows on in, and I'll get a chance. I will stop on over Saturday evening for Northern State at Sioux Falls. What 6 p.m. kick? Does that sound right?
6 o'clock kick, and I'll pencil you in for halftime. Okay.
Fair enough for those who can't get enough of all the shenanigans here and all of the references by my guy Frederick here. We will be on at halftime together apparently, so that ought to be a hoot.
All right. For Matt Witwicky, Tom Frederick saying thanks so much for listening, watching, and joining us for episode 3 of NSIC Weekly. See ya.